Within you, there is a throne not made of gold or precious stones, but of awareness. A throne that has been forgotten, covered by layers of fear, routine, and distraction. This throne wasn't given to you by anyone. It is yours by ancestral right. No one can place you on it, and no one can stop you from sitting on it either. You are here to co-create, and not as a servant to the outside world, but as a spiritual king. A being aware of your power, connected to the source, vibrating in sovereignty. In Jung's deep psychology, the archetype of the king represents the organizing spark, the center that brings order to inner chaos. It is he who brings clarity, authority, vision, and presence. But many of us have lost contact with this center. We were trained to follow, not to lead, to obey, not to imagine. We have disconnected from the royal energy that pulses in the center of the chest. They make you believe that power is about controlling others, that success is status. But the inner king does not seek control. He emanates presence. He creates reality through the strength of his vibration. You were made to manifest with awareness. Your intentions shape the field around you. You literally have the power to alter the fabric of reality by accessing the forgotten part of yourself. The question is not whether this power exists. The question is, why did you forget it? And even more importantly, are you ready to awaken it? Behind ordinary sight, there is a sacred eye, an eye that doesn't see through pupils, but through perception. Ancient civilizations called this point of inner light the gateway to the heavens. Today, we know it as the pineal gland. Small, discreet, hidden in the center of the brain, and yet one of humanity's greatest spiritual secrets. In ancient Egypt, it was represented by the Eye of Horus. In Hinduism, it is linked to the sixth chakra, the Ajna. In esoteric Christianity, it is the lamp of the body mentioned by Jesus. If your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. Civilizations that never met physically, but knew the same truth. There is something within us that connects heaven and earth, soul and matter, imagination and creation. But if this portal is so powerful, why is it asleep? The truth is, this eye was silenced. Intentionally. By toxic food, by the lack of silence, by constant fear, and by the excess of artificial stimuli. The pineal gland is sensitive to light, to purity, to intention. And the modern world is anything but that. We live in a vibrational field saturated with distractions. The mind never rests. The body is constantly stimulated, and the spirit forgotten. The pineal gland, like a crystal that stores subtle energy, gradually becomes calcified, hardened. And with that, our spiritual vision begins to fade. We start to see only what is visible, to believe only in what is logical, to feel only what we're told is safe. This is the veil of forgetfulness. And it's why so many feel lost, even when surrounded by answers. Because it's not the world that has lost meaning. It's our center of deep vision that has been turned off. The pineal gland is not just a gland. It is the bridge. And when it is active, something extraordinary happens. Reality begins to respond to your inner state. But for this to happen, you must cross the veil. And remember that forgetfulness is not the end. It is the beginning of awakening. Imagine for a moment that reality is a holographic field. Each thought you have is like a beam of light passing through this field, creating images, sounds, and situations. Now, imagine that the pineal gland is the projector. The more aligned your inner state is, the clearer, more vivid, and more coherent the world you manifest will be. The pineal is not just a receiver. It is a transmitter. More than perceiving, it encodes. It vibrates. It emits. It is your access point to the invisible field where thoughts become forms and intentions become matter. The sacred code of co-creation begins with the awareness that everything vibrates. Your body vibrates. Your words vibrate. Your emotions do too. But there is something that orchestrates all of this into harmony or disorder: intention. When intention, emotion, and image align, something activates in the pineal. It becomes a channel of transmission between the visible and invisible worlds. It's as if your soul is whispering to the universe, "This is what I want to experience." And the universe, without judgment, responds with the mirror of experience. Science already recognizes that the pineal produces melatonin, regulates the circadian rhythm, and is sensitive to light. But in spiritual traditions, it is seen as something much deeper. It is viewed as a multidimensional organ, able to perceive beyond linear time and physical space. Joseph Campbell said that myth is the collective dream of humanity, and it is through imagination that we tap into this collective field. The pineal is the window through which this dream can be accessed and also shaped. It is at this point that co-creation becomes different from simple action. To act is to react to the world. To co-create is to anticipate the world with the vibration of your consciousness. It's like placing a signal in the quantum field and watching the echo of that vibration manifest as synchronicity, opportunity, or transformation. In the beginning was the Word. This phrase, repeated for thousands of years, holds more than just a religious belief. It reveals a hidden mechanism of creation. Because the Word, when it comes from a clear inner image filled with emotion, becomes a vibrational command. And everything that vibrates resonates. A word is not just a sound. It is a code that activates frequencies in the invisible field. And when that word is aligned with an image-tic thought, it becomes almost magical. Have you noticed that what you repeat constantly begins to take shape? Sometimes, without realizing it, we build walls with affirmations like, "Nothing ever works out for me. I always sabotage myself. This is too hard." These phrases may seem harmless, but they vibrate, they shape, they program. The pineal gland acts like a crystal receiver, but also an amplifier. It intensifies what is being transmitted from your inner state. And here is the point. What you think with emotional intensity becomes a clear signal to the field around you. Clear visualizations, combined with intention and feeling, begin to work like energetic maps that reality starts to follow. Carl Jung said that imagination is the creative anticipation of experience. This is not about fantasy, but about creative vision. When you imagine with presence and conviction, you are writing on the subtle fabric of reality. That is why, in esoteric traditions, the word has always been treated as sacred. It's not just about what you say to others, but more importantly, what you say to yourself silently every day. These silent inner conversations are disguised prayers. The universe does not respond to what you wish for, but to what you truly believe and consistently affirm. You don't need much to access what is sacred. The extraordinary often reveals itself through the simple. And rituals of spiritual activation don't require distant temples or complex practices. They only ask for presence, intention, alignment. Rituals are ways of reminding the body of what the soul already knows. They create a symbolic space where energy can flow clearly. And when directed toward the pineal gland, they work as keys to awaken inner vision and reorganize the vibrational field. One of the oldest paths of activation is silence. Not the silence of the absence of sound, but the deep silence of inner presence. 5 minutes of complete silence, with eyes closed and attention focused on the point between the eyebrows, can begin to dissolve the noise that clouds perception. Conscious breathing is another portal. Inhaling deeply, holding the breath for a few seconds, and releasing it slowly. This simple act, repeated with intention, harmonizes the nervous system and activates states of presence, where the pineal can flourish. There is also digital fasting, a retreat from the excess of visual and auditory stimuli. By disconnecting from screens, noise, and notifications for a few hours, you create space to hear your own frequency. And where there is space, the subtle can manifest. Sound also awakens. Specific frequencies like 963 Hz, known as the divine frequency, have been used for centuries to open the field of spiritual perception. Listening to these vibrations in a state of surrender can soften the barriers between the conscious and the unconscious. Sacred plants, when used symbolically, also act as energetic anchors. Blue lotus, for example, was considered a flower of spiritual awakening in ancient Egypt. Its subtle aroma, when inhaled with reverence, can lead to deeper meditative states. The essential oil of myrrh, used in biblical rituals, carries the vibration of the sacred and of transformation. But the most important part of these rituals is not what you do, it's what you feel while doing it. The pineal responds to vibrational truth. It doesn't matter if the gesture is small. If done with presence, it can open invisible doors. Rudolf Steiner said that the spirit reveals itself through conscious practice in the physical world. There is no separation between matter and soul. Every act, no matter how small it seems, can be an offering to your own sovereignty. By turning spiritual practice into a lived experience, you begin to remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you're capable of. True power does not shout. It does not force. It does not seek external validation. True power is a silent emanation, a vibrational field that organizes everything around it. And that is exactly what the archetype of the king represents. In archetypal psychology, the king is the center. He is the one who unites opposites, who sustains inner order, who radiates clarity even in the midst of chaos. But this king does not live outside of you. He is not found in status symbols or the appearance of control. He lives in your center, waiting to be remembered. James Hillman described archetypes as eternal patterns of the soul. The king, in this sense, is the pattern of inner sovereignty. When you activate it, it's not the world that bows to you. It is you who aligns with an internal field of coherence that begins to reorganize everything around you. Being a king is not about ruling others. It is about not being ruled by yourself. It is about recognizing your own shadows without identifying with them. It is about having clarity even in the face of fear. It is about staying centered even when the outside world shakes. On the path of co-creation, this state is essential. Because the universe does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you are. And being a king is a state, a frequency. It is when wanting dissolves into being. This archetype does not require perfection. It requires truth. It demands the courage to take full responsibility for your vibration, your presence, your choices, not as a burden, but as a privilege. To co-create is to take a stance toward life, a stance that comes from within and gradually shapes everything on the outside. But if this power has always been within us, why has it been hidden? The answer lies in a subtle game, a game of distraction, fear, and control. For centuries, entire systems were built to keep human beings focused outward. Attention was placed on consumption, competition, appearance, and productivity. The world became a distorted mirror saying, you need something outside of yourself to be complete. Organized religions hid the mysteries. Governments erased the symbols. Education reduced the human being to logic, obedience, and repetition. The pineal gland, this spiritual center so honored by ancient traditions, was reduced to an anatomical curiosity. But why this erasure? Because a human being who remembers their power cannot be manipulated. They are not ruled by fear. They don't need external promises to feel whole. They know, they feel, they create. This being sovereign, present, conscious represents the breaking of a cycle. And that is why this knowledge was kept hidden in hermetic circles, mystery schools, and symbols that few learn to decipher. Not because it was inaccessible, but because it was dangerous to those who profit from others' unconsciousness. Now is the time to reclaim your place at the center. The pineal gland is not just a gland. It is your crown. The body is not just matter. It is the temple, and the consciousness that inhabits all of this is the throne. To co-create as a king is above all, to take your rightful place, not through conquest but through remembrance. Because the kingdom was never outside. It was always you. When you shift your inner state, the way you feel, think, and vibrate, the world has no choice but to respond. To reign in this new paradigm is not to impose. It is to tune in. It is to become so internally coherent that the outer world naturally aligns. Without force, without struggle, only through resonance. The crown is not outside. It has always rested on your invisible head. And now you can feel the subtle weight of the responsibility and the freedom it brings. You are the kingdom, and the throne, long empty, is waiting for your presence. Sit down and allow the world to respond to your true vibration.